everyone. Welcome to this Business Sweden Global Gateway webinar for the energy and climate sector. We will still get people in the next 5 minutes probably. But since we have a tight schedule, I will already start with some short practicalities. My name is Else Mieke and I'm here together with my colleague Milou, and we will be moderating this session. In terms of practicalities, please keep your mic on mute during the webinar, unless you have a question, and then you can click the raise button and we will give you the floor when there is appropriate time for that. Then if we shortly go into the agenda of this webinar, we'll first have a short introduction to Global Gateway by Oscar from Business Sweden. Then we'll dive into the funding streams within Global Gateway by Anna from Swedfund. Then we'll go into mobilizing the investments in clean energy in Africa by Andreas from Get Invest. And lastly, we have energy opportunities within Global Gateway in Mexico by Nicholas from Business Sweden again. At the end, we also have some time for Q&A. So if there are any questions, you can ask them then or afterwards. Per email as well. So now I would like to give the floor to Oscar.
Thank you very much. Great to see so many here and more coming in as we speak. I think that speaks to the interest for Global Gateway and this European initiative. So the reason we gather here is that we know that Sweden has a very strong offering in energy and climate solutions. Very strong suppliers, including HVDC systems, green hydrogen, offshore wind, energy, waste to energy solutions. And because these areas are core to EU ambitions within Global Gateway, we want to explore how a European dimension can strengthen projects in these areas specifically. They'll start going into topics like how can we approach the European Union and the Global Gateway flagships. What are the financing solutions that are on the table, and what are the benefits of working in a Team Europe setting? So our aim really is for this seminar to be able to answer some of these questions, or at least bring them up for discussion. And for this reason, we've invited a great panel from Swedfund, from Get Invest, and Team Sweden colleagues from the Americas. I hope I didn't miss any organization here. So anyway, what is Global Gateway then? I think many are familiar to some extent, but it is a European strategy launched really to and enhance global connectivity, boost sustainable infrastructure, and not least then in the energy and climate space, of course, to promote smart, clean, and secure solutions also in digital and transport sectors, and to strengthen systems for health and education. So going on maybe to the next slide. That one. What then can we start to look at in terms of added value for Swedish companies, and what are the synergies of joining with the European additional resources and actors here? Well, we see the potential for a high-level political dialogue, with the European interests and resources at heart, on topics like unfair competition, the level playing field in competing, not least with Chinese suppliers, for example, and advancing both Swedish and European interests in critical minerals. The financial resources of the EU, of the EIB, in terms of grants, loans, and other instruments that can be deployed depending on projects and circumstances, and not least, project development support, capacity development, and other support to make projects bankable and of interest to as many European companies as possible. And also, of course, possibility to strengthen collaborations with other European suppliers. So that can be, choreographed much better in a global gateway setting. So those, I think, are some of the key benefits, and I think we'll explore some of these further. But with that, I hand it back to you, Elsa-Miki. Thank you.
Thank you for the short introduction. Then now we'll get into the funding streams within Global Gateway. And I would like to give the floor to Anna for this.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I see a lot of familiar names joining the call today. So for some of you, there will probably not be so much new, but I will discuss at least some of the funding streams under the Global Gateway umbrella, with a specific focus on funding streams directed at public infrastructure projects. You can jump to the next slide, please. I'm Anna Aljovic. I don't know if I remember to introduce myself. I'm a senior manager with Swedfund. And Swedfund is the Swedish Development Finance Institution. We're a state-owned company, and we have an assignment from the government to help address poverty in developing countries and work towards sustainable employment in these countries as well. We do that through two separate tools in our company. One is our investment organization that does investments in the private sector in developing countries, and then our project accelerator, which is a facility for project preparatory work in the infrastructure sectors. And many of you have worked together with us with the project accelerator facility. And we came about back in 2016 with the objective to support the development of more bankable infrastructure projects. And I think that this is also a nice link to that the Global Gateway approach from the EU enables even more sustainable projects coming out. So this is, maybe we can jump to the next slide, sorry. It's helping, this picture most of you know really well, the Team Sweden picture, where we have our Swedish organizations working together in different constellations for different types of projects. And I would like to sort of see the Global Gateway as a ring also outside this Team Sweden ring, where in certain cases it can be an advantage to collaborate with our European counterparts and sister organizations to both have a more focused and more broad presence in the countries where there are interesting projects, and also to make sure that we use the tools that are available in the best possible way for the different strategic projects that we want to get involved in. And I think that Swedfund can be one of the facilitators to getting a little bit more practical with what tools are available for the specific case. And I would like to explain that maybe a little bit more detail, so we can move to the next slide. Swedfund is pillar accredited to the EU. This means that we have a setup that has been checked by the EU so that we may channel European funds to projects. This was approved a year and a half or 2 years ago, and we have so far only sort of had a few initial projects where we've used this mechanism where we can channel EU funds towards projects. The setup is very much similar as to what you're used to in the regular project accelerator setting, where we are assisting a project owner in the developing country that we're supporting. We're providing them a grant to develop a feasible, sustainable project. So we look at economic and environmental sustainability, the practicability, the alignment of the project with the strategic agenda of the country, and also then with Swedish or European interests, all aligning in this project. But in terms of the types of situations we can get involved are very similar to what we are already doing. So it can be a project that is very upstream strategy type of work. For example, this would be if we're supporting a country with an investment portfolio in the energy sector, for example, down to developing specific design criteria and tender documents for a specific project. So the application is fairly similar, and then the funding would be EU funding. So, for example, if the project accelerator already has quite a big presence in the country, and we're sort of at the moment we can't fund another project, EU funds could be channeled through the project accelerator to also enable one more project. So this is just one example of how the Global Gateway can become beneficial to Swedish companies. Maybe we'll jump to the next one. Just need to keep track of the time as well. Just wanted to give you a few examples of where Swedfund has collaborated with European institutions, and where the European institutions has eventually funded the capex of the project. Because even though we are EU pillar accredited, it's a similar setup as we have with our regular funding. We only provide funding for the development expenditures, and then the capex expenditures financed either through an export credit or through a multilateral development bank, or in this case by the European institutions. And so the examples we already have underway is a water distribution system for the city of Tirana in Albania. We're currently also working on the construction of a hospital in Moldova, and then the case of the Malawi Eastern Backbone power transmission project. In that case, we are channeling funds from the Commission, the EU Commission, through the EU delegation in Malawi. So we're assisting them in implementing this project on the ground. So it's a feasibility study, just like our normal engagements, but the money is coming from the EU and not from the Swedish government. And I think that this is a practical example of how Swedfund could be one of the Team Sweden or the Swedish organizations that can help companies to access this type of funding. It can also be the other way around, that the EU invites Sweden to collaborate with projects where other European actors are already active. So it's sort of very much at this time a case-by-case basis for what is the most appropriate implementer and what is the most appropriate type of funding. What I should say is that the funding for the public sector works very much like multilateral banks at this time. So it's an open procurement of the equipment that is procured when it is an EIB funded project, for example. Same with EBRD and the other institutions as well. What is interesting, and maybe not all of you know as of yet, is that EBRD is expanding, having a more strong presence in Africa, which we think is really great to see. And of course, both EIB and EBRD are very interested in financing energy projects, and historically it has also been the category where they have been most successful in carrying out funding. So I think, just want to encourage you to reach out if you have questions to the first instance is, of course, Business Sweden, but also to us if you have specific questions on how the Project Accelerator team can help you out. Yeah, I think I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Anna, I don't believe we have any questions right now. So we'll move to the next speaker.
Oh, I forgot one slide, maybe. Sorry, can you go back to one slide? I forgot the last slide. No, sorry. So I just wanted to mention on this slide that the types of funding that is available under the Global Gateway umbrella are instruments that you are already quite familiar with, most of you, I would say, in that but one of the new ones that you might not be so familiar with is the DG INPA has some opportunities to provide investment grants, and I think maybe our next speaker will speak more on that. But otherwise, it's similar instruments that you've seen before. It's investment guarantees and loans where sovereign guarantees are needed. And we might also see some evolvement of this going forward. And I think most of these institutions are working on fine-tuning and finding more creative ways of mobilizing funds towards these projects. So at least we're dipping our toe in and getting started, and we're interested to follow how this will evolve. And we should also mention that the EU is quite interested in the way that Team Sweden has worked, and do think that there's some possibility to bring some of the dynamics from Team Sweden into also Global Gateway processes going forward. So that's very interesting to be a part of. Yeah, now I'm done. Sorry. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, great. Then we'll move to the next speaker. Andreas, he will be talking about mobilizing investments in clean energy in Africa. So I'll give the floor to you, Andreas.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Andreas Ostrowski Pereira. I'm joined here by my colleague Marie, who's also amongst the participants, and we are advisors at Get Invest Finance Access Advisory. And quite right, I'd like to give you a very quick introduction to who we are at Get Invest and what we do as the one-stop shop for green energy investments as a practical tool under the EU Global Gateway. So perhaps let's move on to the first slide, and I'll start by giving you some quick background to what the problem is that we're trying to solve before sharing our solution and how it might apply to you in the private sector. So first off, we are a donor-funded program, and so our reason of being is to really support those donors in reaching the big climate goals like the SDGs and the Paris Agenda. And what we all know is that the deadline for those goals are fast approaching, and therefore much faster and much more investment is needed if we want to achieve them. And so what we see is that there are a lot of companies and projects in the clean energy space. There's also many financiers and investors in the same space, but all of them have their own preferences and modalities of work. So we feel there's this kind of disconnect between the private sector, who might find it difficult to access the capital that matches their specific needs, as well as navigating the long and complex procedures. And the financiers, of course, who feel that there are not enough bankable companies or projects that are ready to take on financing. And so that's precisely where we come in. So we can move to the next slide. Like I mentioned, we are a European program mobilizing investments in clean energy, as well as being the one-stop shop of the Team Europe Africa EU Green Energy Initiative. And so our solution precisely focuses on access to finance for clean energy companies and project developers, be it directly or indirectly, of all sizes and relevant business models. And what's super important for us to mention is that we act as honest brokers, simply because we are a donor-funded program, and so that's what makes our services free of charge to the clients that we support. And it's what allows us to provide our advisory services and technical assistance on how to become bankable and raise capital. And if we move to the next slide, you'll see our scope of services in a nutshell. So in addition to our advisory services, we are also a hub of information and data for the industry. So for example, we have a funding database with over 260 publicly listed financing instruments that we work with. And we also support an open source data platform called Prospect, which is a platform that collects, harmonizes, aggregates, analyzes, and displays real-time data from any modern energy solution to help financiers and investors manage their investments. We have a mobilization team that arranges conferences, events, works with the local associations, and supports different activities to stimulate the sector. That we also have a specific finance systems advisory facility called Edge Finance that builds capacity of local banks and domestic financiers to finance clean energy companies and projects. And ultimately, of course, the core of our work, which is our finance access advisory, which is where our two main facilities sit: the Finance Catalyst, which is for larger companies and projects, and the Finance Readiness Support, which is for locally owned and managed companies. And this is how it all fits together, because we need our information and data activities as well as our mobilization work to stimulate the demand and support a healthy ecosystem, precisely so that we can then deploy our advisory services. We've been doing this for 8 years now, so we have a tried and tested solution for companies and projects to access finance. And if we move to the next slide, you'll see a snapshot of our results. So what we offer is a flexible and on-demand service to prepare projects and companies for financing and ultimately connect them with suitable financiers. So since 2016, since we started, we have supported, or we've received over 1,700 applications for support. We have supported over 500 companies and projects. We currently have 235 clients that are receiving advisory in our portfolio. We have successfully introduced 202 clients to financiers, and we have successfully helped 101 clients reach financial close to the tune of 500 million euros. And what's important for us to highlight with these figures is that our role as the honest brokers has played a key part in achieving these figures, because our focus is purely on the quality of the deal and the tailored advisory services that we provide. Next slide, please. Here we just wanted to shed some more light on the actual advisory support that we can provide. So you'll see our core services ranges from business development support all the way to post-investment support, including structuring and transaction support, which are our key competence areas of our advisors. But we also have a range of specialized services, which are specifically deployed to help unlock capital in some instances. So, for example, we have our project documentation development support that focuses on developing technical and investment grade studies like environmental impact assessments, feasibility studies, and more. We also have our legal support service that helps unlock investments through long-term and short-term legal advice, and a credit risk management support service that's specifically targeted at the solar home system market in sub-Saharan Africa. And if we look at the next slide as well, we wanted to take the opportunity to share some highlights from our existing Swedish links. We don't just have Swedish team members that can invest like myself, but we also have supported several Swedish companies and we work with many Swedish linked financiers. So in the last couple of years, we've supported 8 Swedish linked companies and successfully helped them raise over 8 million euros. And on the other side, we've worked with some of the biggest Swedish linked financiers in the space, including long-standing partnerships that have supported many of our global clients and who we have closed over 50 deals with. So knowing a little bit about who we are and how we operate, in the next slide, we'll give you a very brief example of what a typical client journey would look like with us. So clients would typically meet Get Invest at any of the many events that we support globally, or even via direct referrals from financiers, or in a webinar like this. The client would then apply via our online portal. There's a screening process by our advisory team, and if it's positive, there'll be an agreement for our advisory services put in place and ultimately signed. After this, the advisory starts, and the lead advisor will provide the support on all the relevant issues, and of course, based on the specific client need. This could mean liaising with our specialists, like our financial modelers, negotiators, or lawyers, or kick off certain technical studies, like I mentioned. It's also possible. And ultimately, when the advisory team believes that the company or project is bankable and ready to take on financing, that's when we start making introductions to suitable financiers from our vast network. And we continue with that support all the way until signature, so until reaching the financial close, but even sometimes beyond, because we also support with fulfillment of conditions precedent, or even post-investment support, be it mergers and acquisitions or other. And if we move to the next slide, you'll see that our application process is very simple. The links on the screen will take you directly to our application portal. But applications are possible 24/7. We're open year-round with new rounds starting every 3 weeks. The current round ends on the 7th of January 2025. It's a bit longer to accommodate for the winter holiday. All information submitted is treated confidentially, and decisions are made within 6 to 8 weeks. And what's important to mention is that we will always provide feedback, no matter the outcome. And therefore, also, we always welcome resubmissions. In terms of eligibility, you'll find all the information on our website, but it needs to be in the clean energy space, for profit, ready for debt and equity. In the case of companies, that means already generating revenue. And our geographical mandate covers Sub-Saharan Africa, the Pacific, and the Caribbean. And if there's any specific questions or additional questions, please do not hesitate to reach out, because we are always open to explore how we can support further, be it through our advisory services or other ways. And perhaps finally, just before wrapping up as well, next slide, just to share again our funding database. It's a highlight of our work. And like I mentioned, we have 260 more publicly listed financing instruments. It's a huge network that we work with, and that we always ensure that we link as many clients as possible with the right type of financing. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. So thank you very much for your time and listening. Always happy to answer any burning questions now or later in the Q&A, or contact me directly on the email that you can see on the screen.
Thank you, Andreas. It was very interesting. I see that we already have some questions, but I would like to ask those people to wait a little bit until the Q&A, so we make sure that all speakers have the time to present their presentation. So next up, we have Nicholas, who will talk a little bit about energy opportunities within Global Gateway in Mexico. So I'd like to give the floor to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicolas Urbina. I'm the acting country manager for Business Sweden in Mexico. And well, it's an honor to close this session of presentations by sharing how Swedish companies can benefit from the Global Gateway initiative, focusing on Mexico, growing energy and industrial sectors. And the Global Gateway initiative is about building sustainable infrastructure and partnership around the world. And Mexico is a priority region for this initiative, thanks to its strategic location and growing role in the global trade. Over the past few years, global supply chains have faced serious challenges, as you may know. The COVID-19 disrupted production and caused a shortage of critical goods. Also, the armed conflicts impacted natural gas and metal suppliers, leading to energy issues, and also the trade tensions forced companies to rethink their strategies, including moving production closer to the key markets. This shift has transformed Mexico into a nearshoring hub, and today companies are choosing Mexico for its modern industrial parks, skilled workforce, and proximity to the North American markets. And as of last year, industrial parks in Mexico have reached about 98% of their occupancy rate, showing high demand for infrastructure and energy solutions. And for the Swedish companies, this is an excellent opportunity as you can bring sustainable solutions like energy efficient systems, smart technologies, and green infrastructure to support Mexico's development. And by combining our expertise with Mexico growth, we can create meaningful progress for both countries. And today I will talk about two projects in Mexico. We can go to the next slide, please. Plan Sonora is one of Mexico's most ambitious projects for clean energy and industrial growth. And this project focuses on three key areas: renewable energy, lithium mining, and advanced manufacturing. The Puerto Peñasco Solar Park is the heart of Plan Sonora, located in the Sonora Desert. It is one of the largest solar parks in Latin America. In its first phase, it will generate about 120 megawatts of electricity, enough to power over 190,000 people or about 64,000 households. Using almost 300,000 solar panels, this project maximizes the desert strong sunlight to create great clean energy. This solar park does more than produce electricity. It reduces Mexico's reliance on fossil fuels and supports global climate goals and create jobs in the region. The Swedish companies can contribute to Plan Sonora by offering innovative technologies in solar power, battery storage, and energy distribution. There are also opportunities to address challenges such as efficient distributing the energy that this solar plant will create to remote areas, and also protecting the environment during its construction. And this project highlights the potential for collaboration between Mexico and Sweden. Together, I think we can combine Mexico's natural resources with Swedish expertise to create solutions that can benefit both countries and contribute to a greener future. And the next project is the Plan Sonora project. No, sorry, the Istmo. Yes, sorry. Another exciting project is the Interoceanic Corridor, located in the southern Mexico. This corridor connects the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans with upgraded railways, ports, and energy infrastructure. It aims to make Mexico a leader in global logistics while promoting renewable energy. One of the corridor's key goals is the production of green hydrogen, a clean energy source. This region has excellent wind and solar resources, which will be used to produce hydrogen for local industries and global markets. With a planned $10 billion US investment, the Isthmus of Tehuantepec will become Mexico's largest green hydrogen producer, contributing to the global fight against climate change. Another important feature of this project is the modernized railway system, which will make it easier and faster to move goods between the two oceans. This will reduce costs and strengthen trade routes, offering an alternative to the Panama Canal. And beyond logistics, the Interoceanic Corridor will create opportunities for regional development. It will bring jobs, improve infrastructure, and reduce inequality in southern Mexico. And the Swedish companies have much to offer in this project, from wind turbines, solar technologies to hydrogen production systems and railway solutions. The Swedish expertise can help make this project a success. This is a large opportunity to contribute to Mexico's development while building partnerships that will last. Next slide, please. So why should Swedish companies get involved in this project? I think the opportunities are very clear. Mexico's energy and industrial sector are expanding very quickly, creating demand for innovative and sustainable solutions. Partnership with Mexican companies can lead to shared success and customized solutions. And by participating in these projects, Swedish companies can demonstrate their expertise and commitment to sustainability. And the Global Gateway initiatives give you a platform to make an impact economically, socially, and environmentally. And by working together, Swedish and Mexican businesses can create solutions that will drive progress for both countries. Next slide, please. And at Business Sweden, we are here to help you in all the steps of these projects. Our goals are to make it easier for Swedish companies to succeed in Mexico, maximize the opportunities of the Global Gateway initiative that it provides. And the projects that I have discussed today are just the beginning. I think that with Swedish innovation and Mexico's growing market, we can achieve incredible things in the region. And well, I look forward to answering your questions after the presentations and continuing the conversation. Thank you. Tack så mycket. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very interesting to hear. So now I would like to open the floor for some Q&A. We already had some questions in the chat, I see. Anna, I would like to give the floor first to you for your question.
Okay.
Anna Liebeck, sir. Or you can read it. And otherwise I can read it as well. So she asked, is there understanding that there will be any dedicated funds for R&D and I for solutions that go into GG projects? I think that is for you, Anna.
Oh, right. So I am not sure, actually, to be honest, because it's not something that we get involved with. I'm assuming what I've learned is that the EU has other types of programs that support R&D. So those would be Horizon and scale up for R&D, well, other types of funding. The Global Gateway funding, I don't think has many aspects of R&D included in it. It's mostly for, well, for the strategic infrastructure projects, at least. There might be other types of funding that I'm unaware of. But the segment of the Global Gateway that I work with are the strategic infrastructure projects where there might be elements of innovation included in the projects, but it's mostly sort of established technology and solutions that are implemented.
Great, thank you. Are there any further questions for Anna for Swedfund? Then you can raise your hand. I don't see any now. You can always forward them later to me as well. Then I will make sure that they will get emailed through. Then we have another question I see for Get Invest from Carol. The question was, what about Central East Europe?
So unfortunately, Central East Europe is not within our mandate. again, that the applicants or the investment sought to be deployed must be in sub-Saharan Africa, the Caribbean, and or the Pacific island states that my colleague Marie shared in the chat.
As for Swedfund, we are active in Southeast Asia and have possibility to support projects there. And we currently have our biggest portfolio is also in Africa, but we are expanding our portfolio of projects in Asia.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions for Andreas at this point?
I see another question in the chat,
yes.
whether there are any countries in Latin America that fall under a scope. Again, unfortunately, not at the moment. Yeah, LATAM it's a region that's on the horizon, but for the moment, it's just Sub-Saharan Africa, the Caribbean, and the Pacific.
Okay, then one last time, if there are any last questions, please click the raise your hand button or share it in the chat. If not, then are there any further questions for Nicholas? I don't see any. So I think this was it then for now. I would like to give the floor back to Oscar for some final remarks.
Thank you very much. Let me also just refer to this morning's webinar, which was on a different sector, primarily transport, but still, you know, with also some other speakers from also other one from INPA and one in a different project. And you may want to just refer back to that for some of that discussion as well, which is also of interest, I think. So maybe is it possible, Azumika, to link to the site where the recorded calls will be linked to?
Yes, I will make sure that everyone gets the recordings and the links to the website as well.
Great. So, okay. Thank you very much to all the speakers for their excellent contributions, all the listeners as well. And from my perspective here, just as a bit of maybe final thought from my side, is that I truly believe that Sweden has a very strong position as you know, partners in this initiative, partly because we have a very strong industrial base in virtually all of the key sectors, including energy, that are of utmost importance to the Global Gateway Initiative. And not many European countries can boast that. So that's one good starting point. I think another very good starting point is that we have an established Team Sweden way of working together since many years, which you know, really fits with the ambitions also on the European side. So I think very seamlessly we can, in those projects where we decide to cooperate, where you know priorities and other things align, I think we have a very good chance to make something great out of this. But so if there's no final comments or questions, I thank you once again, all of you, and wish you a good evening or the rest of the day, depending on where you are.